Hey, Shauna.
Hello again. Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Good, good.
Very good. Thinking of one interesting thing today.
What is that?
I'm thinking about with everything that's going on,
Mhm.
the word faith
It's a supercharged
and
subject. Yeah,
the one.
it's a supercharged subject. I
Yeah,
yeah.
I think today it probably is going to be not just on my mind, but it's going to be on a lot of people's minds because of what's happening, how it's happening, and I'm trying to see if they realize that this is a faith situation or they're kind of putting it in different categories with the different things. So what does what the word faith
Mhm.
means to you?
Yeah, and I think I really wanted to clarify kind of like where we come from as far as what our ideology perspective is on this matter, because I think when we speak about the different subjects, we may throw in a word or two that may people, that may get people to have certain interpretations of what our belief system is. So I think this is a good opportunity for us to clarify what our understanding is or what our perspective is on that. So and how important of a role faith plays in my life, in your life, and what different perspectives may exist on it.
What's a description of faith?
For me,
No,
uh,
generally speaking.
a faith in a higher power. I think what something outside of you that you attribute to your well-being. That's how I interpret faith, and it can be since there's so many different religions, I feel like, and people have a different name for this source that is outside of them, that they attribute to things happening, and they look to save them or to help them or to guide them.
Uh-huh.
That's, a faith in the unknown, a faith in a higher power. So
Interesting.
mhm.
So what's because I think that faith is in my mind,
Mhm.
it's either like it's a religious type of thing, but it's not just religious in the sense of what religion are you, because some people don't believe in any kind of religion at all, which is
Right.
it's their right and their needs or no needs. But the faith, it has to come probably not just from religion standpoint, but life experience standpoint,
Mhm.
such as to me personally, um, I probably never believed, well, especially when we were younger, unless you kind of brought up with that.
Mhm.
Um, you don't believe in any God or any kind of upper what's
Power.
the word? Yeah.
Mhm.
So, but to me, it happened. Uh, oh my gosh, it's almost 20 years ago. Um, that I start believing it besides the actual faith in life,
Mhm.
but it added to it the fact that I actually went into religious aspect of it and start when my grandpa, who meant the world to me, all of a sudden he started having a health issues and he was probably, hold on, 85. Yeah, he was in his 80s, mid 80s,
Mhm.
and he got into a hospital and the people were saying to me, oh my god, what are you talking about, he's in his 80s already, what faith do you have for him, or what do you want, like he's already in 80s, so he might not survive, what we're going to do, blah blah blah. And this is, I think, when the first time I just dropped to my knee and start praying the hell out of it and
Mhm.
saying, hey god, listen to me, man, I've never asked for anything, and I can tell you this much: I will do whatever it takes on my part to make sure this man will survive whatever it is he needs to survive. Just support me, just help me, just give me that little support that we need, that we can't do without you, but and interesting enough, it took me a quite some time to do the prayers and hoping and wishing and begging. I did do a lot for his recovery and stuff, but that was I would not do anyhow differently, but being with him and stuff. So he survived at 85. He survived 3 operations.
Oh, wow.
He lived almost 5 years after that.
Mm-hmm.
He passed away when he was like 90.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me meant a lot. So this is where, like, again, faith, as we read what it means, exists in our lives. But besides that, there was like a little branch to it,
Mm-hmm.
where um, the religion,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But I can tell you this much: I might not look like it, but I'm Jew to be born, as. But at this point, um, I don't have a difference in any kind of religion, in the sense of it's all the same. You can call it any how you want, if that makes your world go around. And when I started praying, I actually was in a very Christian hospital, and little Maria was standing in front of me, and I was praying to her at that point. So, I just say that it's a faith overall. So that was just kind of like where I started, and then it helped me many other times afterwards. But I always say this: faith is something that you very strongly need to believe in, but you can't just believe in it. You got to do some actions to it. So it's not just the religion that you ask for it and it comes to you, but also you have to do your part on it before it actually starts working. So what is your take on that, Missy?
Yeah, it's very true. It was something that I definitely had to experience myself as well, to have that full understanding of it, and not understanding, but the feeling of it is more of what it was for me than the brain understanding. But I think for me, like growing up, I grew up in a Christian family, and we just said God, and I had no idea what that meant, and I would pray every night and go to sleep, but I was like, okay, I don't know what that means. But so when I started going to university, I took so many religion classes, because I was like, I need to understand, like, what is this, a religion thing. So I took all the different religions, and still was like, okay, these people believe this, these people believe that, all that stuff. So I was, I just kept analyzing and not really coming to and when my kids were born, my husband at that time, my ex-husband was religious, so he would teach them God, and I would go along with it, but I still didn't know. So then, at a certain point in my life, I developed anxiety and depression, and I had gone to a really dark place in my mind. And that's when I started thinking, I need to believe in something, because at this place of darkness where I started thinking we live in hell. And it was, depression really does a number on you. But I started thinking, this is where, we live in this planet, and it's actually hell for me. And how dare I bring kids into this place,
Wow.
So yeah, it was pretty deep. So then I started doing my own research. I started reading, every day I would go to Barnes and Noble, and I would just read and read and read on the different perspectives, and finally, found peace within me. And that was through meditation. But then what I found was my meditation was a way for me to connect, outside of my mind. So then I stopped analyzing. I wasn't analyzing anymore. I wasn't trying to make logic or rationale understand what it was, but I just connected with my heart. And for me, that's what meditation was. And then and then it was this feeling that came over me, and I started healing myself. I started being able to go to sleep, which the anxiety wasn't letting me sleep at nights. And, then my thoughts started changing, and I started having, started getting happier. I started to see life in a different perspective. And it was this feeling that was taking over me. And then there was this sense of, okay, there is more to us. There is more to us than we know, but that connection that I felt, that feeling that I had in meditation, was something that I still cannot fully put in words, but it's a feeling. It's this complete connection. And so, when people try to identify it, and they name it with the different religions, I say, sure, whatever works for you, but as long as you're connecting to that higher power, to that higher source. And I think that we're all part of it, that we all have access to it. So it's not necessarily, for me, it's not necessarily outside of us. It's what we connect to. So we're all extensions of that source is how I see it. So I see all of us as like extensions of source energy, in a physical body, here to experience living life in a physical container. That is our body. I kind of see it as like us getting into a car and going somewhere where a source comes into our body and we're experiencing. So that's my interpretation of faith, and it's made me, you know, see life in such a different way, where it has more. I
How
feel
long
like
did it
lit
take
up.
you? What's the time frame like?
So I think I was probably in depression for probably a good 3-4 years, and towards the end, it was very severe, where I had to be on antidepressants, and I did have anxiety. So that was a couple of years. But then when I started meditating, that the transformation was very quick. It was within a few months. Like I took myself off all the medication, and that was pretty like amazing for me. And even other ailments that I had, like I had suffered from migraine headaches,
Yeah.
throughout my whole life. Those completely went away. So even now I don't have headaches. I don't get headaches. So things like that really made me understand the power of connection.
Two questions.
Yeah.
One, what was it that put you in that depression?
I can't completely know what the starting point was, but I think it was a gradual pattern of thinking negative thoughts. Not understanding what what my purpose was in life, because I think I had been brought up to know happiness as something outside of me, something that there was certain roles that I needed to accomplish to become accepted in society, for people to approve of me, for me to like. I got the education, I got the degree, I found the job, I found the husband that I thought was going to be not, I basically did everything that I thought was expected of me. And then came to a point where I was like, none of this is really fulfilling that hole that I have inside of me, because I can't find that completeness within me. So
Could
then
that be,
what?
sorry, could that be some sort of midlife crisis?
It could be. I think that's what happens to a lot of people, is they get to a certain point in life where they realize all these things that they've done to get validation, to feel important, to feel accepted in society, is not really working, and they don't know how to like know who they are truly.
I think we need to
So,
talk about this a little bit more, so people, because it's a huge subject of a midlife crisis. I think because you probably were going through this at the same time I was going through this.
mm-hmm.
And it sounds like that the midlife crisis have put you in, but such a big thing because of losing your purpose in life and losing yourself, and
Your own identity.
yeah, and a non-understanding, definitely. Then you find your faith in this. I mean, kudos to you, woman, for I mean, I know people that are still in depression, and it's so many years, and they're just on the pills, unfortunately, killing their liver, but they don't know different ways of how to get themselves out of it. So by you being able to pull yourself out is
Yeah.
beautiful, because the faith has gave you a new look at things and stuff, you
Right.
know.
And I didn't want to go through life and have, become this miserable person, and, become, just jaded and miserable, and have this viewpoint of life that I did at that time. And especially with 2 daughters, I didn't want them to feel sorry for me, or to look at me and go, oh, we don't, we don't want anyone to know our mom, because she's just, and I didn't want to influence them in that way. So I said, I'm gonna figure out what's going on with me. I'm gonna heal myself, and that was the reason I started, going and reading and doing everything that I could to understand. And thankfully, I did figure out ways of connecting, through meditation.
What does that mean, connecting? So that's the next question of mine. What do you, when you say connecting, so people understand,
Mm-hmm.
who and or what are you connecting? What are the two dots that you're connecting, or to whom are you connecting?
So I think with meditation, what I understood was that we come to identify ourselves with our brain, the thoughts that we have, and what we're thinking is we think that that's all that there is to it, you know, but it's an understanding that our thoughts are not us, that there's an us that is present, that's in the heart, that is the soul, that is outside of the thoughts that we're thinking. And that, you know, the awareness comes in where you have the ability to be able to control your thoughts and to understand that they're taking you in a certain direction that you don't necessarily have to go in. You know, where there's people that think, well, this is what I'm thinking, so this is the way it is. But no, you can actually change your thoughts. You can guide your thoughts in the direction that you want to go in once you're able to separate yourself from your thoughts, to know that there's an existence to you that is outside of this organ that's your brain, and its job is to generate thoughts, but the thoughts are not you. You know, there's a lot of good books written on this where they bring people to understand that realization that you are not your thoughts. You know, that there's an essence to you that is outside of and that you're able to put gaps in between the thoughts that you're thinking. Once you discover that there are gaps in between the thoughts that you're thinking, then that gap is where you discover your essence.
Okay, so
yeah, that's, I mean, I know it sounds
no, it's a beautiful thing, because a lot of people probably kind of like not fully understand this.
mm-hmm.
Some people understanding comes from experience. That's what I understand.
Exactly.
Coming from
experience it,
going through this and understand the mechanical part of it, as I always says, you need to understand how that vehicle works. Mm-hmm. Now, what would you say that if I tell you that, because right now you were explaining how you were going through this, right? Mm-hmm. And I had my own, and my faith came from, I did not read too much books, but I took a different approach to it. But faith came to my life too. And I'm like I said, you know, I luckily I didn't have to be on a pill, but it happened to be the life choices that I made in life, right? Like we all do. And then that's my job that created this anxiety and disgusting feeling of who am I, what am I, blah, 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 blah. And then not being worthy because somebody is constantly tapping on your head saying that you are not good enough, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough, which we all can relate to that. But I actually got myself out of that too. It probably took me a couple years, mm-hmm. Or within 2 years. But it was just, again, back to my own recipe, like as I always say that. It's kind of like, first of all, understand what the problem is, mm-hmm. what creates this disgusting negative feelings in me that creates an anxiety, right? And then why is it there? Mm-hmm. Who brought it in, or how did it end up being there? And then thinking of, so after that you think of, okay, how much of it is it a truth? Analyze it, the deepness of it, right? And then try to kind of like, you know how we take a shirt and we can put inside out? Mm-hmm. Well, we don't wear it inside out, we wear it out in. Whatever you go, you gotta put it a certain way. So I actually, right? I kind of had to put my shirt, mm-hmm. outward, like outside, the way that it has to be on, versus being inside out. Right. It took me steps, but I didn't read any books about it. It was just what I just explained to you. And I was able to do that too. But I think that to each its own, obviously. And majority of people do need to reach out to books and reach out to people who have gone through this, and maybe they'll find their own way of doing it. Mm-hmm. But faith is a huge thing in people's life, and they need to realize it.
Right. And I think, you know, like for me, now that I do fully believe in this connection that I have, it's just, you know, I cultivate it more and more each time. Like now that anytime I have a question, or I just ask myself that, you know, before going to bed, and sure enough, the next day or the day after, I will get the answer. I will get the answer that I need. And I don't doubt it anymore. I trust it completely. And, you know, I do believe that it guides me in my life. And there's, you know, it's always about perfect timing too. There's no rushing it, but it's a beautiful thing when you're able to connect, and when you do have a purpose, and when you feel like there's much more to you than just this brain that's generating thoughts, because not that the thoughts are against you, but it's to be able to have control over your life, and to know that, the contrast that we experience in life doesn't determine anything negative about you, but it actually gets you to strive for something better,
Mm-hmm.
because anytime we experience anything negative in our life, it's because it's getting us to see what it is that we do want that's outside of the negativity that we're experiencing. That's how we propel ourselves into discovering greater versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
Because it's all about, we don't just get to a point in our life and go, oh, this is all that there is. No, there's so much more that we can do, that we can experience, we can grow and create. There's so much.
Allow yourself.
Right.
Allow yourself first before you realize it. Then you need to allow yourself to experience new things, to go through new experiences, right? Or to get to a better place. Allow yourself to do this. Don't limit yourself, because there's so much in life that it's like.
And here's where the struggle comes in, because if we only identify ourselves with our brain is, like I've said before, it's nothing more than a record of our past. So then there comes the fear, that fear of the unknown. So how are we able to have, trust in our ability to survive and be okay in the future if our brain has no comprehension of what that might be like in the future, when its job is to protect us based on the past? So it won't allow us to do anything different than what it already knows. Mm-hmm. So then that there's that battle between, do I have faith? Do I have trust that there's a higher power guiding us, and I will be okay, and that I will, be able to thrive and survive in the future without me having to make logical sense of it with my mind, with my brain.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and if you don't have a complete faith in your well-being based on that intuition, that instinctual connection that you have with the source, then you're never going to take any actions that are against what your brain deems necessary for you to do to survive, because
Also, I think that some people could probably relate to the fact that you don't have a faith, or you don't allow faith to come out and work for you, mm-hmm. versus against you, because you might be living with somebody who's constantly skilling that, who's constantly is tapping into your world and killing all the faith that you have, mm-hmm. because somebody else is very miserable in their own life. Mm-hmm. And then they want to make everybody else miserable. Misery loves the company, or something. Is that what it says? So I mean, I'm sure it's a different subject altogether. We can cover this in another time. Mm-hmm. But I think also, if that's the case, because one thing is to do it yourself and about yourself and whatever else, but sometimes when you do so much work for yourself and pulling it out and getting it, the faith to come out and work for you. Mm-hmm. But if you're living with someone who's constantly, every morning or every day or anyhow once a week, whichever might the case be, like constantly pressing and making you feel that small, mm-hmm. that faith is not going to come out, just because you're not going to be able to overcome it, right? It's just another thing too.
Mm-hmm. Right. And sometimes you can't help but live with or be influenced by people like that, but then that's where the power of I think meditation really is an effective tool, because I've actually developed the meditation that was just for me, because I started thinking, what is it that we need to feel empowered? What is it that gets us to feel protected? So mine, I call it flapa, which is to feel free, because that's a common, not a common, but it's a need that we have as humans, to feel free and to feel loved, to feel adored, to feel protected, and always abundant, that there is no lack. So when you can instill those emotions, those feelings inside of you, then you feel empowered. Then you feel like you can take on anything, because when you're relying on your brain, which is nothing more than a record of the past, then what is not known to the brain will cause you to go into fight or flight, your body to go into fight or flight, stress mode. And that's usually the case with with people 70% of the time, you know, because they don't know, and their brain is constantly scanning their environment, and what's not known causes them to go into stress mode. So when you don't know how to bring yourself into that place of feeling empowered with, you know, front loading those emotions inside of you, basically knowing that you're
Yeah.
food, that you're loved, you're adored, and you're protected, and you're abundant always, then that's the only
Leave the person.
what leave the person. No, I mean, they can feel the way that they want, but you can be that person that
Sorry.
embodies those emotions more than the fight or flight emotions, you know, which is the
No, I get it. I was just making fun of it. Sorry. I just like, you know, that's happening. Like, bye.
I'm out of here.
I'm out of here. Bye. I'll see you later, alligator, because I
Yeah.
can't do it. But
But I
enjoy
think
your
once
yeah.
they see you behaving that way, they're going to want a part of that too. They're going to want to feel that empowerment that you feel, that freedom that you feel, that, you know, the full of lightness that you feel, you know. So hopefully that'll get them motivated enough to want to, you know, experience that rather than the negativity, the fear, the resentment, the hostility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Oh my goodness, woman.
yeah, was that
That
was that?
was I was not an easy subject,
No,
and
I don't
yeah.
know. I mean, I don't know if we were completely clear on this or if there's other things that we could have covered, but hopefully that's a little touching up on that
Well, guess
subject.
what? People can definitely comment and maybe tell us what kind of faith that they're looking for in a sense of their own life, and we can cover that based on what, you know, kind of people the public is looking for. That's another thing that we can do it. Like we're gonna, just like you and me, gonna start having uh, people coming to us to talk about different things, like a guest and stuff.
Mhm.
So we can also cover it without being guests. You can just, anybody can just message us and put the comments and say, this is what I am struggling with, or this is what my area of opportunity is. So please, can you cover that and explain more and help me to find this and that?
Right.
And you can do that too.
Yeah,
You
anything specific would be great to talk about too, because I think, you know, when we talk in general terms, then it's a much broader spectrum
Yeah,
of things to cover. But you know, specifically, it can be more targeted and hopefully a little
yeah,
more clear.
exactly. So I think it's enough for one time, because people like, hold on, let me breathe. Let me take a breather or something. I'm just kidding. I'm sure it wasn't that bad. But so yeah, let's just lead with that, and then we'll cover based on the needs next time.
Yeah, please subscribe and like if you liked our discussion and our video. And we look forward to the next one.
Definitely.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.